Welcome to Monet Cafe Studio. I'm artist Susan Jenkins, and I am thrilled to bring you this pastel painting tutorial that was already released actually here on the Monet Cafe channel as a very condensed version. But my Patreon version is the one I'm releasing to you now. It has all of the real-time content, and it's just a little teaser and a little sample of what's available over on my Patreon page. And I happen to have a Patreon discount this month. If you'd like to try it out, it's 50% off the first month with that coupon code. Now it's only $5 a month, so it's not like it's that huge discount, but it's just my way to say, hey, come on and give it a try. And I think you'll love just the beautiful people and artists all learning and growing together over on my Patreon page. Now let's get started. And just to show you how real it gets on my Patreon page, I gave a little intro. I turned the sound down here, but I literally had a chipped tooth. And it's just a truly behind the scenes, relaxed atmosphere that's just very informal and fun. All right, I'm going to skip this part. Let's get started with the lesson. And if I address my patrons in this lesson, it's because I'm resharing it with you. Enjoy, guys. Before we get started, though, I wanted to let you know that the reference image is so gorgeous, and it's from unsplash.com, a great site for copyright-free reference images, and I will have the link to this reference image in the description of this video. The surface I'm using is Pastel Matte. This is a large pad. It's 12 inches by 15.5 inches. And it is water friendly. I love that. It's great for many different types of mediums. I find it's excellent for pastel pencil, and you can use watercolor or gouache or any kind of wet medium on it. So what's neat about this surface is it's not sanded, but it receives so many layers. It's quite smooth. This yellow color is so gorgeous. Gosh, this would be just a great underpainting color for a painting. It'd even be pretty for this painting because it's got kind of some yellow undertones to it, but I still think I want to do a wet underpainting for this. I think I'm going to work on gray. This is barely gray, okay? On the screen here, it probably looks white, but let me flip it over. You can see that's white. And pardon me for all these shadows in here. This is white. And, but I think I'm going to use the gray because it already gives me a little bit of tone, a little bit of value. And I think that'll be a great way to start. So I made my decision that I'm going to play with the underpainting with my idea of just moving some color around with the alcohol and making kind of a loose, this painting is, I mean, the reference image is so loose already. I want to get that just that freedom in it. Before choosing my color palette, I really like to just take a moment and consider the mood of the piece. And I also like to often, I don't always do it, I like to convert it to black and white. It really helps me to see the values more clearly when you just take color out of the picture. And I can see here, we've got some nice dark values in the ground, in the foreground, kind of behind the flowers. And as I like to do, I typically, there's a motorcycle, sorry. I typically like to lead the viewer into the painting. So it already has a little bit of a concept of that, pulling the viewer around to this tree. And the tree, of course, is another dark element. And you can see here, the sun is doing what we've talked about, or I've talked about in a video a while back, a few months ago, where the sun is actually going to lighten the values because it's so low in the horizon, lighten the values of this tree, and it's going to warm up the values here. You want to see? Yes, it does. See, it didn't take it and cool it off because this tree is far away, and a lot of times values get cooler. It warmed it up because the sun is really illuminating that light right here. So I'm analyzing, look at some of these nice colors in here now. I love some of these beautiful greens. There's a lot of nice neutrals in here. Beautiful. You would think they're white, you know, the flowers are white, but when you come in here, let me see if I can zoom in with my camera. Can you see some like bluish colors in here with these flowers and some little yellowish colors in here? And then if you squint your eyes really hard, you can see this is more neutral back here. And I also love some of these, back in here is almost like a peachy and sagey green colors within it. I love how the sun has washed out these flowers. I want to try to capture that. and just the freedom of these grasses. They're almost kind of that tannish color in here, and it gets very light back in here with a few of these. I don't know if they're Queen Anne's lace or the ones that are almost like weeds that are very similar to Queen Anne's lace. But you guys see how some of them have a little bit more value, almost like a bluish, little lavender blue color here. These are ones that are going to be a little bit more in shadow. We've got a little bit more of the darker green, but very neutral. It's just so lovely, really beautiful colors. So that's my goal. And I always kind of look for a little punchy color I can use. Do you almost see in here, let me get the focus better, a little bit of a bluish green color in here. I'm seeing it in a few little places in here. So that's really, for me, a good way to start a painting. I'm seeing more of that bluish color kind of in here too. And like almost like a teal blue. And that to me is a great way to start choosing colors. Not just grab the reference image and go, okay, there's white, there's green, there's yellow green, there's tan, you know, but study those subtle nuances of color and also value, because we're not just picking out color, we're picking up value as well. Oh, you see some of those yellows down in there? So there's lots of little subtle colors going on in here. I'm bringing you a little bit behind the scenes in the studio here. And I always stress this is not a big studio. It's like a 10 by 13 room, but you can do a lot in small spaces. And you've probably seen this behind me a lot when I speak in videos. It's a nice, sweet little piece of furniture that I got from my mother-in-law, who she passed away. We moved her in with us. She had terminal cancer. And it's just a nice little memory of her. But I love how these shelves allow me to place these sets of pastels. And this will help me to address a question I get a lot. Do you take all of your pastels out of your sets and incorporate them into one big palette, or do you keep them as sets? And I do both. Now, when I was first starting, I couldn't do both, just like probably many of you beginners can't do both. You don't have enough pastels. But as you accumulate more, you might want to do that. It really, to me, my goal in my dream studio that we're trying to build is to have it a palette big enough to where when I paint, I have everything at my fingertips. Have you ever watched a Marla Baguetta YouTube video? She has the greatest setup for her pastels. And so that's my goal. I've often thought it would be neat to have it in a circular format where you could just, you know, turn around and grab whatever you need. Anyway, I digress. So I keep some of them in sets, and then I keep some in my workshop palette over here. This is another really nice, it was a piece of furniture in our house that flooded, and the shelf, I love open shelving. Open shelving is great because you can just grab it. You don't have to open anything. And my husband put some lights under here for me, which helps. So this is my workshop palette, I call it. And it is literally, I wish I had it in front of me. They're drawers from this, I got it at like a hobby shop. It was a cabinet, a little drawer cabinet. And all of the drawers, I pull them out, and I used the drawers, let me turn the camera here, to put all of my colors according to color family and value in here. And what's really nice about that, this is a tip in case you want to do this. If you ever have to travel somewhere, I would say for more of an extended period of time, and you want to take them all with you, you pop them all back into the little cabinet. I had to do that when our house flooded. I had to do it when we went to take care of my mother-in-law. And I've had to do it multiple times. Too many moving situations in my life. But it is a neat little tip. So I also, when I'm painting, here's another thing that happens. As I'm painting, I am painting a lot, obviously you guys know, and I'm pulling out colors, and it's a lot after each painting to put them all away. And so often, let me grab something real quick. Often what I do is, rather than coming back over here to tediously put everything back where it goes, I have this little palette that I made from an old Sennelier box of pastels. It already had these dividers in it. So I just loosely arranged whatever I've just worked on. I just did that from the last painting tutorial I did. And so I often just have a nice little quick set that I could do a lot of paintings with all these, and I do it by color and value. So, but then when I'm ready to incorporate them back into my workshop palette, guess what? They're already kind of arranged for me. So that's really handy. All right, so as I said, I got to pick out some colors now, and I'm going to work mostly from all of this and this box since I have so many colors in it. So let me move my camera and you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, so I think for the underneath, and I'm just holding this, that's where I'm gonna put my pastels. It's a little large, but it's all I had on hand. So I think for this underneath, again, I'm working on gray just because I wanted a little bit of value. And I think I wanna establish some of this pretty light. Maybe just a little bit. I don't want to go really dark at first. So I'm looking at some of these pretty neutrals that I have in this little neutral set. I may not have to superimpose this if I can keep holding it up. And I've got some pretty little neutral colors here. I don't know why I keep saying little, but I think I am liking, oh, let me see here. This pretty green here. Look how nice and light that is. Beautiful. So I'm going to grab that one and, oh gosh, I see some pretty yellows too. But first I'm going to stick with this one and look at some of these colors. Now I think for my darks, I may just do something cool like this. This is a little cool neutral gray. It's a Terry Ludwig color. And that might be nice for some of my darker areas. Again, I'm not going for dark. I'm just going for a value that's a little darker. I also kind of like this little peachy color right here. It's a little darker, but it would work good for some of these areas in the middle foreground. And this is, I'm doing local color right now. Local color means I'm staying kind of close to what the colors are. I'm not picking some kind of crazy bright pink underpainting to make some kind of impact with the colors I put on top. I'm just playing with some local color. That's such a pretty little neutral taupe color. I don't think I want to go that neutral right now though. This is also, wow, what a beautiful color that is. It's an easy green. Wow, I like that too. So I'm grabbing that one and I'll show you these when I pull them back out. But now I need some of those pretty, man, it's just this color where the light is shining. And I see a color I like right now. This color where the light is just, oh, so pretty here. Oh, and I'm seeing a little lavender back in here now. And almost a little pinkish tone, really light. I'm liking this color. This is a Terry Ludwig. This is from my neutral box. Doesn't have nearly as many as some of my other color boxes, but that is a gorgeous color. So I'm gonna grab that one and let's, ooh, look at this color here. I got two here that I really like. These are a little brighter right here. They're both almost the same. So I'm just gonna throw these both into my palette box. And now I am seeing some hint of some kind of pinkish almost color, and that looks like in here somewhere. It's a little dark, but remember, I'm going to be adding pastel on top of these. But because it's a little dark, let me see if I can grab something that's a little bit lighter than that. Let me look in here. And it really helps when you're choosing these colors. If you do have a workshop palette that's arranged according to color and value, it makes it much easier to find things. Now mine are very loosely arranged by color and value, and I can still find what I'm looking for very quickly. In other words, I'm not so tedious about, oh, every color and value has to be perfect. I can quickly go, oh yeah, that's the lightest value that I need. So let me look in here and see if I can find an even lighter. Let's see, is this one lighter than that? That's pretty too. That one's a little pink. This is the one. It's almost like the one I just had, but it's a little bit peachy. That's pretty. That's the one that's a little more neutral, a little darker, but I'm looking for something that's even lighter. And it's dirty, but this is a light, let me see if I can wipe it off. It's almost like a light pinkish color, really neutral. And I might, since I'm working on a gray surface, I might use something like that. I'll show you all these colors when I'm done. I'm seeing a little bit of almost like a magenta color in there, which is along the same family as this. This is just a lighter version. Already sat down. Okay, this one's good. And you'll see the difference when I show you this palette of colors. It's a little bit more saturated. So let me show you those colors right now. Here are the colors that I've chosen, and as you can see, they're pretty neutral, but I want to go ahead and make marks of these colors because they do look a little different. And this is obviously just on a paper towel. And again, I purposely kept them fairly light in value. Again, the darkest value is that gray. You can see they apply a little more brilliantly than they look in your hand. And the concept again is just to lay down some of this color and value, kind of like a little block in. If you've heard me use the term block in, often we just block in the big shapes and areas first before we start getting more detailed or serious in our painting. And because this is an underpainting and my crazy concept of spraying the alcohol and working it around, I know these colors are going to get a little bit combined and probably neutralize even more and get a little muted. Now here they are kind of lined up according to value, so you get an idea. And you don't have to use all these colors by any means. Even just 3 or 4 values would work. All right, don't let these pink weights distract you. They're literally holding my board down so that my camera doesn't move around. My board's a little warped. All right, so I know I have some nice warmth down here. Again, I didn't want to get too dark, but I'm gonna just avoid a few areas as if there's maybe some flowers in there. And it may all get kind of covered up, but that's okay. This is that creative, fun stage where you're just feeling freedom and the sense of movement and motion. Okay, that's going to be it for that bit of dark. Now I'm going to go ahead and go up here. I know I've got my tree line or my horizon line is kind of up and diagonals just a little bit here. Yeah, just a little bit. And my tree is just kind of in here. And I'm gonna lighten it up a bit. Maybe it comes down just a little more. And I'm lightly just scumbling this color here. So I'm just getting some values established. And as I always do, I don't care if I go outside of the line. Sometimes it's good to give yourself a little room because sometimes you may want to make it a little wider. All right, so there's that. And now I'm going to go with my next, this pretty kind of sagey green. And because I'm going to wet this and move color around and everything, I'm going to be able to layer. Obviously, we have a lot of layering ability. Oh, there's some more dark back in here. I think I'm going to go ahead. Remember how I said there was almost like a little path or a trail that was kind of leading the viewer back? Okay, so there's that. And add a little bit of this green in here. I don't know what I'm in for here. It may be just a muddy mess by the time I'm done. Again, if you're seeing this video, it must have worked a little bit. And so there's a little, some of you have mentioned about pastel matte having some imperfections, and it sometimes does, I will tell you. But I have been very blessed. The last pads of pastel matte that I've gotten haven't had some of that little kind of weird pattern that it can get. All right, so I'm using this light green, and there's some of that light green that's kind of coming up here. I'm just reaching up to the tree. I'm just looking at big shapes right now. And there's a little more of it here. And as I add this alcohol, of course, some of these colors are going to kind of blend together, but that's okay too. All right, now I'm going to go with this. This again was probably my next dark next to this blue. And I'm just looking at maybe some darker values down in here. We're just getting the vibe, the mood of this. I'm feeling a sense. This is what makes a painting. It's painterly. It's not a photograph. But yeah, we're just getting a sense of that energy. And here's that color. I'm actually going to break this. Oh, let's see here. All right, and that was a Terry Ludwig pastel. Here's some of this. Just kind of blending it down in here a bit. I'll deal with flowers later. And this is where I saw that kind of pink color. This is a little too dark, but I'm gonna do something to work with that. All right, we've got some of this coming up here. And I probably could have done this in sections so as not to muddy all of this. But guys, I'm just ready to paint. I haven't painted in a while, obviously, since the last tutorial. I spend more time editing videos, I'm telling you, than I do at the easel, which I hope that changes when I get out to the other place. I'm hoping I can do more live streams where I can just paint with y'all there with me live. I better quit talking and pay attention to what I'm doing. Here's that pretty little, I don't know, kind of pinkish neutral color. And again, there's like, I'm trying to see where this goes. It's kind of more like right in here. It's almost like this little road or path. It's kind of coming up to here and almost like something comes down here. And again, this is the painting under the painting, and it doesn't have to be exact, but it's nice to get, you know, a general kind of road map. And now there is a little bit of a darker element back in here. This is too dark, but I'm just gonna go ahead and use this right in here. The color's not exactly what I'm seeing, but the value's right. I talk about that a lot. And we've got a little bit more of that in here. All right, and feel how neutral that is? So nice and neutral. And you know, if you guys, if you're patrons of mine, you've definitely followed me for a while. I don't always go neutral. Now I'm going a little, I feel like I need some yellows in here. This one's a little more yellow. Yeah, this is good. I love neutral colors. I'm gonna break this one too. I think this is definitely a Rembrandt. It's almost too hard for this. So I'm gonna go get a yellow that the Rembrandt's not applying like this one. Great Americans are incredibly soft. They're not my favorite for just a versatile pastel, but they're really great kind of for some final mark making. Sometimes I feel like they get a little weird when I apply them, a little sticky or something. But this is pretty, yeah, I like that. And then I'm feeling like there's a little, see, I'm going out of the lines again, a little pink kind of up there in that sky. So I'm gonna pull some of this in. My camera's probably wiggling like crazy. Okay, and I feel a little bit of this in here maybe too. All right, I need a little more depth, a little more value in here. A little bit more of this kind of dark green in here. Very pale, really pale, but I think I'm gonna like this. All right, I think I'm gonna add a little bit of this in here. A little lighter in here. All right, and that should do it. I'm kind of feeling like I wanna go ahead and cover up this rather than just try to avoid the flowers, because I feel like it's going to be too different. I can add the flowers later. I don't have to do a lot, but just kind of like that. All right, nice neutral beginning here. All right, so here are some of the things that I got out to play with. And this is just one of those ideas. I think it was in the middle of the night. I always think of these things. Oh, that'd be neat. Okay, so what I decided, I woke up and I was thinking, okay, what if, you know, I do a typical alcohol underpainting where I either dip my brush, sometimes I'll spray it and then use my brush. I thought, what if I just play with this alcohol? And so the first thing I'm going to try to do is I use these little spritzer bottles. You could use alcohol or water. Alcohol dries faster. And these, I've had these little bottles forever. This one actually, it has alcohol, a little bit of alcohol and water. I think it's probably a 50-50 alcohol to water mix. Just, you know, drugstore alcohol. And it actually still smells a little like Truly Yours, which is kind of nice. Now, is that a selling feature? My painting smells really good. So I don't know. So I'm going to work first with just spraying some of this alcohol on. Now here was my idea, spray it and play with it. Now I've got some crazy little sponges here. I'm not far from Tarpon Springs. Not that I ever get to travel anywhere, but one time I got to go to Tarpon Springs. This is not from Tarpon. This looks like SpongeBob SquarePants, but I think he's orange. This is a regular sponge, but at Tarpon Springs, they're known as like the sponge capital because they have all these sponges off of the docks and everything. And this is a whole bag I got of these sponges. It has some nice texture. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't know what's going to happen with this one. I've obviously used it for something else, but it just has some neat texture to it. I've also got little foam brushes here. I have this little palette knife. I don't know if that'll even do anything, but I thought, let's have fun. I got a fan brush here. That might be fun. And I have some of these color shapers. These, I've seen other artists use them, but I've tried to blend things and it didn't really work. So I don't know what they're gonna do. They have this really neat edge. It's like plastic and they look like a brush, like a paintbrush, but it's this little nice thin edge. So I'm gonna start playing with this and we're just gonna see what happens. I think I'm gonna start with my lightest value first. I'm just gonna spray this on and I'm working flat just for the underpainting portion, for this portion. So I'm gonna be quiet now so I can focus on what I'm doing. And I don't know, I might jab a little bit too. Okay, let me put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing here. All right, we're gonna spray some of this. Now it's gonna look darker for a while, but then it will lighten back up. So first, let me see what this little fan brush does. Oh, that's nice, I like that. Oh, I need my reference image back. And it's gonna dry kind of fast, so you might need to respray it if you have a mistake like I just did. Yeah, fan brush is kind of fun. Oh, that's fun. And I thought of the fan brush just now. I want to have paper towels, maybe to blot something off. I thought of fan brush because I want the sky to be a little more blended. Oh, that's pretty. I like that. Look how soft and nice. And I want this tree to feel far away. So I don't want a lot of texture in the distance, in other words. And I'm pulling a little bit of that up in there, but that's okay. So now I'm gonna go ahead, I might need to rinse this off. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this tree up here since I'm already here. I'm spraying it pretty good. So let's oh yeah, that's fun. Oh, that's fun. I'm gonna get really free and just have a blast with this. I'll add my, my flowers on top of this. I'm not worried about that. I'm just letting my shapes move around here. And now, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and work this little dark area. Since I've already got dark on my brush here, I think I'll try my sponges down in the really textural area. And now here it's okay if some of my colors blend together. It's adding a little bit of that feeling of neutrality. And let's see if this is too dark to work here. Yeah, I'm feeling like, kind of like I've done with some of my other alcohol painting. The alcohol kind of cleans off the brush a little bit, so you don't really have to dip it in water a lot. All right, so that's fun. Wasn't that fun? Just using a kind of a little texture to this. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's even fun. Adding like almost like some old grasses back in there, pulling them up over the tree. Yeah, this is neat. I'm glad I woke up in the middle of the night thinking about this. All right, that's neat. Now, let's see what else I have. I've got this sponge, I don't know, this one and this one. I think I'm gonna try some of this crazy texture here. Again, I don't know what's gonna happen. And I'm smelling this alcohol, oh my goodness. So I'm gonna work my way down here. I'm gonna kind of get this middle area. If I scrub it too much, it's going to just blend it all together. So rather than scrubbing, I'm dabbing. You see that texture there? Oh yeah, that's cool. That's really cool, I like that. So I'm gonna get more of this. This is going kind of fast. I think these are the only tools I'm gonna need for this. And I'm trying now to be careful not to blend it all together to where it creates one muted color. I like that energy going that way. But again, I can't blend it too much or we're just gonna get a whole one neutral color. So, oh yeah, that's cool. I like that, very neutral. And that is was kind of my goal, was just to get a nice neutral loose beginning. That was very fun. These were some of those original underpainting colors up here. And you see, again, just very muted. And when I blended everything, it did definitely neutralize things even more. But now I'm going to add some more vibrancy to it. And I'm going to use these as my darks. I wanted some dark, it's coming out a little more saturated on film than it is with my eye. I wanted some darks underneath here that had a little bit of a purplish tint to it, and a couple of darker greens here. They're just a slight difference here, and just some of these greens in here. And I'm seeing in this area just some pretty golden colors. Oh, I like this. This is a pretty, almost a brownish magenta in some areas. Now it looks very dark, but I definitely need to darken some things up in this area. And then I will layer on top of that. I always say we do things kind of from the ground up, from the shadows up. I think I'm going to need something even more vibrant than these. Some of these pretty kind of golden colors in here. So I'll play with those colors. And I may add a few more colors. But remember how I said the flowers were not all white. I have some lighter values here. This is kind of gosh, it really looks different in this viewfinder. Let me hold it up, see if it's better. It's a light purple. It looks lighter here. That's more like what I'm seeing with my eyes. And then I have another light right here. This is probably my lightest light, or considered a white. And then I've got a couple of these cooler colors that'll be more for some of my flowers that are a bit more in shadow. And then I do have another pretty purple for some vibrancy. This one's a little bit more magenta. It's a little warmer. And then I've got this kind of a pretty bluish purple here, rather light. It is so weird how these colors show up different on my on the camera. So, you know, if y'all could be here in my studio with me, that would be the best, right? I would love that. And I did pull out some nice, more punchy yellows. I do want to capture that feeling of sunlight. So I do need some pretty yellows in there. I think I'm going to need a few more greens. So I'm going to get some warmer greens. And this is where I was seeing a blue, well, right in here. It was like a little bluish color here. And what I have is too dark. It's like a bluish teal. I couldn't find the right color, so I'm going to try combining a couple of colors. These are a little dark, but I'll get something neutral to lighten them up a bit. I'm first going to start with just a little pinkish color, Prismacolor New Pastel, and just mark off where some of these flower shapes are. One behind here, and keeping it really nice and loose. One down here, and already I can tell I'm going to go outside of my borders, but you know, I don't like to be restricted. This one looks like it's falling over. I kind of like that. It's got one that's kind of going like that, and there's another one over here that's kind of falling over. It's more like it's a little higher than this one. So these will shape up the more that I develop them. And then we've got a few more in here. I want to make sure I remember to make some of them smaller and some of them larger. Now this is more of a central focus flower. It's almost in the middle of the painting, and I don't really love that. So I'm gonna pull this one, I want it higher, but pull it a little more this way. Let's make this one bigger like that. And you can see, I'm just not making shapes that are perfect. They're just a general idea of where I want these to go. I do like that we've got one up here, just kind of almost reaching up into the tree, and then this one up here. Oh, this is the, what's that? Pièce de résistance? Is that how you say that? I don't know. Is that French? I'm not French. And I kind of like how there's another one reaching way over here. So I might move that one a little bit because I need that one like right in here, kind of, and then I'll put this one a little bit more this way. And again, these can all be maneuvered around. Then we've got all these nice little ones back in here. We can add all of that later. Then I love this one here. That's just, it's like a little seed head reaching up here. And that is really pretty. Then we've got one right here. I like it too, but I want it reaching up a little bit more into the horizon line, just peeking up over that. And then a few here with, these are washed out, very, very washed out. A couple clumped together here. A few, the arrangement of these flowers in this are really nicely done. Or nicely done by God, not by anybody but the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. All right, and then we got a whole bunch of little ones in there. So that's giving me kind of a motion around there. And that's all I need really to get started with that. So I'm gonna do like in typical fashion and start with some of these darks. And I'm just gonna pull some of them in here with a little bit of motion. And these darks are what's really gonna make things start to feel like something. Again, this looks just super muted and neutral right now. But I like the feeling of all of this energy up here. Bring just a little up in there. Somehow I got a little texture. It might be from the sponge. I don't know, maybe bits of the sponge came off. And there, again, is a little bit of dark in here and a little bit of an idea of a path or something. I don't want to take it too far back in there because it wouldn't be that dark that far back. I'm thinking something I did may have caused a little more texture than I was planning on, but it may work in, it may be one of those happy accidents, work in my favor. All right, I'm already feeling that value has helped things a lot. Now I'm going to go ahead and get, this is some of the value in here. I know I'm going to be lightening this tree up over here. It's going to get those golden colors. So I'm keeping a real soft touch right here. And I'm going to do some negative painting in here, getting some of that, those sky holes of golden colors. Yeah, I'm going up out of here. I didn't get my tree quite tall enough within my borders that I had set. So I'm just going to take it out of the frame. Okay, where was the one I wanted? I wanted this one and this one. So let's pull this up in here. And this gets quite a bit darker over in here. I'm going to go ahead and take this out a little bit. I like this color. It's really pretty. It's a Terry Ludwig. It's just a pretty, pretty purple. And I'll be pulling some of these grasses up over here. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm liking those colors already. All right. And now in here, we're getting a little bit to this middle ground. There's some greens that are not quite this dark, but again, we're layering kind of from the ground up. Think about how things are darker in, man, there is really something, I think I got something on this paper. I probably should kind of wipe things off. It's like we're going from the deepest parts of the grasses and then gradually working up to where the sunlight is. Yeah, pretty, pretty. And then I'm going to establish some of these pretty golden highlights as we progress. Now, some of this green is in this tree here. Oh, you can just see it. Oh, this is a really good green for what I'm seeing here. It's even going back. It gets a little more blue back in here because of the shadows. I'm trying to look at the shape of this flower. And then I'm going to lighten it up as we move out here a little bit. All right, anywhere else I'm seeing this yet? It's still a little dark, kind of in here. And this is where there's that pretty charcoal blue almost in here. And then it's really going to lighten up as we move back here. So that was this green right here. Now there's another green I got. This is the one that was right next to it when I showed you. It's a little more neutral. So I'm just going to pull a little bit of that up in here. Maybe some of these imperfections are kind of working in my favor. I'm going to just go outside the lines here. I don't even care. Easily just pull some of this down in here. This right in here is not really the focal point. It's just a lead in. So I don't want a lot of detail. I like the fact that it's super loose from that underpainting. Oh, it feels tangled. Really neat. I like that. Now, let's see. This is where I've got to make some decisions. I do think I want to get, this is that original color I used. It's not bad, but I want something with a little more life than that. So now's where I'm going to grab a different color. Oh, that one might be it. This is, yeah, see, this is, it's probably a little too blue. Let's see. But it might work in conjunction with this. So yeah, I'm pulling some of this, like, you see how some of that's creeping in the reference image, just kind of down, like it's shadowy, like it would be blue. And let's see, anywhere else I'm seeing that, maybe a little bit in here. I just try to incorporate some of the same colors throughout the painting. And I'm thinking, where are the shadows? Where are things cooler? Nice, and maybe even a little of that up in here. And it kind of makes nice contrast or balance to the composition. Yeah, I'm liking that. Okay, so there was that blue and that charcoal type of color. All right, now let's see what we got going on. I have to get a color in here that will be a nice base. And you see, we're still seeing that underpainting through there. You see in the texture? And I'm hoping that I don't cover it all up. But I think maybe this. I think I need a little more depth first. Again, I got to get what's underneath, what's on the ground. So, oh, and this one was darker. Nope, not really. So I got to get something that's a little bit richer, a little more rich. I see one here. It might be too rich. I don't want to go. Okay, maybe. This is a little one. I don't even remember what this one was. Yeah, that's going to work right there. You see, I got a little more of these goldens. And I'm going to be sprinkling more sunlight as I go. But I first want to get just some of this golden color that's just pulling up. I'll layer that lighter value on top later. And there's perhaps a little bit of that, not too much back in there because that's further away. And I feel a little bit of that in here. And I don't want to get too much going on. I'm still trying to do my block in phase. Now here's where this one was a little lighter. Squinting my eyes to see where some of this might be, yeah. I'll work more on these actual grasses after I get some of these flowers in, but this is just giving me an idea of some of this color that's going to be layered on top. Now here's where I'm seeing those little pinkish kind of peachy tones, and this was one that I used for the underpainting. It's the color that I need, but I think I need a little depth to it. Would this be, this is one of the ones this is one of the ones I used for the underpainting. It's just really neutral, kind of in the background here, and I'm feeling it's kind of creeping down into the middle ground a little bit in places. Oh, it's going to be fun when I add these flowers. And just little areas back in here. Yeah, you feeling the life now? And now's when I'm going to add this little kind of peachy color. Don't want too much over here. I want to keep this focal interest in the places that I think will make the best composition. And then back in here was where it got almost like a little road or path, and I'm feeling maybe like a little real neutral gray. Let me see how this goes. It kind of goes like that. So, and I think a little lavender in here will help too. That's just that little feeling. I don't know what it is. Is it a road kind of curving around? Let's make it that. We got a road. It'll probably come back right in there, and then maybe just kind of go out of the scene somehow like that. All right, I think I am feeling that lavender. Let me see, is this one too light? Oh no, that's perfect. Oh, that's just perfect. A little bit of lavender, like a little shadow on this road. And then even more shadow. Well, it needs to be a little darker back in there. And this is gonna be too punchy, but it is a little darker. Because it's kind of, it's like a little road that just went back and around the corner, you know? I'm going through a flower, I know that. And let's just make that a little more subtle there. And I still have plenty of layering ability here. Oh, I'm loving that. Purple, that just pulled it in there. Okay, you guys know me. I can't get away from purple. All right, I'm squinting my eyes, and I know that the sky in my reference image right now appears lighter than the sky, but that doesn't mean that's how I have to paint it. I mean, it's a beautiful photo, but I like the idea that the values are already a little bit darker, and I'm thinking about kind of intensifying and enhancing some of this color up here, rather than it just being light all the way off the edge. Kind of keep the viewer's eye in the painting a bit. So that's one of the original underpainting colors I used. And see, oh my gosh, you see there's little influence of that color is underneath, which is really, really fun. All right, now let me check out here. Now this has a little bit of that original, it was part of the underpainting colors. It's a little more pink, and I'm squinting my eyes. It's a little lighter in value than the first one. A little more pink, and I am going to have like a glow over the horizon. You know what? I love the idea of there being some distant trees back here. All of a sudden, those little marks that I made with, you know, the fan brush, giving the idea of like it was grasses growing up or something. This is going to be a little dark right now, but I'm going to use it just to get an idea of some trees kind of far away. All it is little shapes, you know, just little ideas. That's where a flower is going to be. And then I'll have some more kind of going out of the scene wherever I crop it. And it's not a lot too dark, just a little too dark. But I had another pale blue over here. Let's see, is this it? I'm going to show you a picture of the ones I add too. Okay, so these are more pale than the one I just used. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure yet. This would be good for ones that are kind of going back further. I think it's a little lighter. It's a little bit greenish, but I like it. And then this one is a little more blue, even though I'm doing opposite. Usually the trees that are closer would have more green, and the trees that are further away would have more blue. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I really do. And I might tone them down just a little bit. They're a little too saturated right now, but as I progress, things will hopefully start to take shape. Now, I brought out some of these yellows, okay? And I usually don't go with yellows this bright. I don't know why. I like yellows, but oh gosh, that was pretty. Okay. And I'm just pulling a little bit of it up in here. I'm squinting my eyes so I can see. I don't want to go too high with that blending there. Yeah, that's really pretty. I like that. Now I got another yellow, and I'm thinking this one is maybe a little too extreme, but let me take a look at it. It's darker. It's a little darker in value. So if I'm going to go darker in value, I'm going to go somewhere over in here maybe. Well, I told you guys I probably couldn't resist making this colorful. I can't help it. It's just, wow. If you've got all this color, why not use it? I did like the neutral palette though. But see, there's another lesson. You can make it yours. You know, you don't have to stay with a reference image. You can totally make it yours. Now this is that Rembrandt. Now Rembrandts are really good for, they're harder, a little bit harder in the soft pastel category. And they blend very nicely. I don't want to get so much going on in the sky that I lose my layering capability for that little flower or pod that's going to be up there. All right, so we'll leave the sky alone for now, because you could easily, if you keep doing it, you could overwork that sky pretty quickly. Now, I want to get a little bit more, this little area that feels like it's land in front of this road. I want to get something that feels a little bit more like, maybe this is a little too dark. Maybe is this the color I used? Yeah, that's the color I used, but a little bit more of that maybe. Like there's some grasses growing up and some little shadowy things happening in this road. And I think I'm gonna get something even just a little bit, another color maybe, just to give a little more interest back there. So let me find, would this be too, it's a nice neutral green, but I'm not seeing a lot of green back here, but it might work. If the value's right, go for it. And I think that value's right. And it is giving me, and there is some of that green kind of coming down in here too. I still got to get some more yellowy greens, and I'm going to have some of these growing up kind of over that road. And I think I might add a little of this green to some of these trees. Remember how I said the trees that are closer would have more green in them than the ones so far away, and I wanted to kind of neutralize that color anyway, and there you go, that did it. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, I think I want to add something in here. Maybe that purple is not right. It needs to be a little bit darker than that. Let me see what I got over here. Let's see. Maybe this one. Yeah, maybe this purple right here. So I'm going to come in here where there might be a, you know, I said there's a kind of like a curve in that road. And just maybe some areas where there's grass is growing thicker. See, that's given a little variety to that back in there. It was just too much like a blob of one color. And I'm looking at the reference image to see kind of where, even though I don't know what it is back there, I'm using my artistic license and I'm going more on the values that I see more than anything. The remainder of this video is sped up slightly. You can still follow, but I always like to recommend to my patrons and to my subscribers on the Monet Cafe YouTube channel that you can always go to the settings. It's a little gear icon. Sometimes it's in the upper right on your phone, I believe, in the lower right on your computer, and you can slow down the playback speed. So you can always make it easy for you to follow. So I'm developing the flowers now, and I realized, yes, there is some blue in these shadowy areas of the flowers, but I later stepped back and realized this blue that I'm using here is too light. It's already lighter than I need because I want to layer light on top of dark, and this is just getting too light too quickly. So you'll see that develop as the painting progresses. So I did end up using the colors for the flowers. Again, keep in mind summer and shadow. This is a gorgeous little blue color. I realized, oh yeah, this is the depth of value that I need. It's a blue that leans just a tad teal, and it's getting that base of the parts of the flowers that are in shadow. Keep in mind, we're not trying to paint every single little part that's in shadow and then paint every little bit of light. We're doing that beautiful and kind of easy process of just glazing. Now this one, I wanted to capture a little more light, that flower there. So it does have some greens in it too. I wanted it to feel like that light was coming through, so that's why I added a little bit of the orange. And I decided too that I wanted to make my painting instead of like it is in the reference image. The reference image is a little bit washed out. Things are a little pale. I do like how neutral it is, but I wanted to intensify some of the warmth and have it more peachy and golden colors coming from the sun. And part of that is because look at the sky. My sky, now I do develop the sky more later, but my sky is not as white as the sky in the reference image. So I want to capture some of my sky, make it make sense that type of light is coming onto the flowers. So this is the part where I'm just kind of playing and seeing which colors I'm going to be using. Now I do add more colors than you saw in the original colors I had in my palette, but I'm trying to talk about them as I paint. So that was just talking about layering right there. And as I continued to work on this, that main flower that I was just working on, the larger one, it ended up being too forward facing. You know, you see some of these flowers are facing the viewer, but you know, in my typical fashion, I like to make the flowers a little bit turned towards looking down that road or looking towards that sunset. And I have some of them I keep a little forward facing, but that main one, it felt like it was just looking right at the viewer and it was a bit distracting. So you'll see me change the shape of that later. So this is just that phase where I'm just developing the values mostly. I've already kind of got my concept of where the flowers are going, but these here, now, why am I using such a dark value here? Well, squint your eyes, look at the reference image. The seed heads are darker than what's behind them. And even though my color's a little dark right now, I'm going to glaze some light on top of it. And this is the stage that I often call the messy stage. It feels like it's just all over the place. And I remember when I first started painting with pastels, I felt like it had to start looking like something very soon, not realizing that this layering process and keeping these loose and light and energetic strokes beneath is what's going to give it that impressionism and that painterly style. So I'm adding some more of these darks. This is that pretty kind of burgundy dark. It's a Mount Vision pastel, and it's really a nice warm color. And because I really want to bathe this painting in light, I want to take that pretty little salmon type of color. Notice how I'm wiping it off. I'm using it to soften those background trees. Remember remember how when I painted them, I said I'm probably going to neutralize them a little bit. So I thought I'd bring some of that sky color, that salmony peach color, down into the land very lightly. But if I don't keep wiping my pastel off on a piece of tissue, it's going to carry the darker color wherever I take the pastel. So that was just to kind of soften up that background a little bit. And I often use pastels to make new colors like I did. I didn't have that color of the distant trees, so I just made it by combining a few colors. Now I'm getting my really light color. This is a Great American yellowy pastel, just to build that area of light. It's kind of right around that the smallest seed head. And I'm getting a little bit of blue. I felt like I needed to darken that one pod or seed head. I just wanted to get a little more value contrast. Now this is a set of greens. It's Diane Townsend pastels. These are called terrages. They're large, kind of chunky rectangles, and they have the most beautiful greens. Some are warmer, some are cooler, and there's some that are kind of yellowy I just pointed at. But it's time to get in some of this golden, glowing green color a bit more. And you can see it in the reference image. It's kind of filtering down almost at an angle, coming from the kind of underneath the tree down towards the bottom. And so I'm just getting in some of it. I'm trying not to make just grass lines. I am making kind of vertical shapes, but really just trying to keep it very loose. Now I'm going to switch to one of the colors. That one's a little bit cooler, just a little bit, not quite as yellowy as the other one. And I realized I need to get even cooler. So see this one? It's a little bit of a almost like a teal color, and I'm just laying it on its side and glazing some of that cooler blue-green color into the grasses, even a little bit up into that tree. Remember how I said the right side of the tree was a little bit cooler? And again, it's a little messy at this stage. And those flowers I put kind of some centers to, the ones that literally are facing forward in the image. You'll see me soon kind of erase them out because I wanted to turn them a little bit. And now again, just pulling some of those greens down into the grasses over the dark. You can see the layering happening now, where the dark is still peeking through. You've got that influence of deep shadows. And I tried a little bit of that pretty yellowy green that was in the set, and I only used it in a few spots. I felt like the light wasn't getting that light and value down into the painting. And now I'm finally pulling some of that brilliant warmth down as another layer on top of not only the darks and then the greens, but now finally where the sunlight is catching and warming and glowing some of these grasses. I'm even putting a little bit of it on the seed head just to warm them up a bit, but still trying to keep the value, kind of a medium value in front of that light sky. That bottom right flower was still just too light, and this was a really nice little neutral, medium light value of a green. And I felt like it just warmed up some of the cooler blue colors that I used for those flowers, and kind of knocked down the saturation. But I still do, I'm using some of these blues for some of the shadowy flowers, and I decided to use them just to add little bits of debris or maybe other little flowers or elements sprinkled throughout the painting. And that's where I had seen originally when I showed you the reference image. I was seeing some kind of a pretty bluish teal color, so I played with that a little bit. Now I'm adding some of that same green back into some of these flowers, and you can see how it's giving a value. You're going to see me really lighten these flowers up later, okay? So they are going to get lighter, but this is just kind of the process. But this is giving that middle value of where some of the sunlight might be coming through, but also there is some green. Even if you look at the reference image and really zoom in on the flowers, there's a little hint of this pale green kind of within the flower heads. Now this one is a little bit of a peachy color, and I thought the peachy color worked well to capture a little bit of that glow of the sun. So you can see I have got such a combination of colors going on with these flowers that you would normally think of as white. When I first started painting, I would have most likely just painted these flowers white or gray. I would have been able to see this. Some were darker and lighter, but I would have never known to use some of the combinations of colors here. And that's what makes the painting exciting and fun. Still playing with that little one at the top that's in front of the tree, and you'll see that one come to life too. So this, I always, again, I say this all the time, I feel like it's a dance. I'm dancing literally all over the painting. Now that I've brought in some of the warmth with those orange, kind of orangey, peachy colors, I want to bring in a little bit more richness, because some of the light that's filtering down through some of the deep grasses is going to get a little darker in value and perhaps even a little bit warmer. Plus it adds a richness to the painting. Can you see that automatically brought some richness? And you're gonna see that happen a few times before this painting is done. You'll see me later where I add in some dark values for some, just some little different types of plants growing. And it's amazing how just a little bit of pop of darker value or color contrast or value contrast will make such a difference. And now time to add some light to some of these flowers. And as I mentioned before, you're going to see me in just a little while erase this flower. I just did not like that forward facing position of the flower. But this is a pretty little tan, almost tan peachy color. And as you can see, I'm just giving little marks and little shapes. I'm not trying to give any of the specific, every little flower petal within these flowers. I'm still using a little cool blue down there, because if I did that everywhere, especially, it's going to make your eye go everywhere with all of the detail. So when I erase that main one flower, you'll see me redevelop that, and that will be the one that I give the most attention to as far as some of my mark making and my detail. I want to keep the rest of these flowers a little more subdued. And now time to warm up and lighten up even more, pulling down some of these lighter values on top of some of the greens and darker values I've already laid down. And it is really giving a feeling of warmth, a feeling of energy and motion. And it's a lot of fun too. So I'm pulling even a little of it up in front of that road, like I said before, just to kind of meld those two areas together. They were a little segmented before. Here I've zoomed in more to the tree, and it's time to bring some sunshine to this tree. Remember how I said that I was going to warm up this left side of the tree? The color I was adding before was a little bit too light, and this looks very weird right now, but you'll see how I'm using pastels to give the color that I need and the value that I need. And then with that other little gray, I just neutralized it. And now I'm going to pull in a little bit more of that darker purple down at the base of the tree. And I zoom back out here because I brought some of that same dark purple back down into the deeper parts of the flowers. I had lost a little bit of my dark values. Now you're going to see how this comes together with this tree. This little medium value green, I'm just kind of glazing it over. You know, the tree just looked very boring before, but you're going to see it start looking more like a distant tree that's catching some of the sunlight. Now for the fun. It's time to bring some focal energy to this. I did blend a little bit more of this orange color on the outer branches and leaves of this tree. And the fun part is where I do some negative painting, creating the sky holes. Now, when I create these negative marks that are within the tree, I am creating a focal area that will be really pretty obvious. And the reason is we've got a harder edge for one. That tree before it had really soft edges, and I'm carving in to make these interesting shapes, and it's different. That's another thing that causes a focal point. Something that's different, something that has more edge or more line, something that has more contrast, which this does. It has color contrast and value contrast, and see how that just instantly brought some life to this painting. Now I'm bringing some of the same colors that are in the sky down into these flowers. I've got a combination of layers of colors in these flowers that are making them fun and just energetic and colorful. But putting a little bit of this peachy salmon color on the tops is reflecting the light that is actually in the sky, and that's actually what happens in nature. When I got down to the lower flowers, I darkened the value a little bit and made it a little bit more of this a bit orange color. And I am going to get to erasing that one flower very soon, but a little bit more here. And I'm actually also going to add, like I need another color on these flowers, right? I'm going to be adding some purple. I just felt like we had that kind of pinkish purple in the distant road, and I want to incorporate it kind of down into the painting too, to give it a little color harmony. All right, so here we go with some of the purple. It's just that pretty purple. I think I showed it at the beginning in my pastel palette. And in the flowers that are a little bit more hidden, I'm just pulling a little bit of that purple down onto the lower part of the flower that's not catching as much of the light, putting it a little bit in just various other places. And I thought it really worked well on these upper flowers too, because they're a little further away from the light source. All right, it's time to erase this flower, and I've sped this up quite a bit. Literally, I'm just using a stiff bristle brush, and the pastel just falls right off. It's just a real easy way to kind of remove an object and paint over it. Now, I had forgotten that this was a technique I used in, it's been a few videos ago, but I realized, wow, a stiff bristle brush will really soften things too, rather than pulling out another type of blending tool like pipe foam insulation or some of the other things we use. A stiff bristle brush will really just blend things and soften them up a bit. All right, so I'm doing a little bit more. I wasn't real happy with some of the shapes of that, and I wanted to lighten it up and soften it a bit. I felt like it was almost too hard of an edge. It was getting attention, but perhaps too much attention. And sometimes I use my finger just to blend things. Now I'm carving in just a couple of other little negative shapes, and even some down into the tree line, those distant trees. You'll see me do that in just a minute. Now, doing sky holes like this, it's what it's called when you negatively carve in like this, it takes some practice. I still don't consider myself an expert at it, but I've gotten better, and you will too. Now there's where I just carved a little bit into that distant tree line, and it really gave a nice shape there. I love how they look kind of purplish and far away. Now here's where I'm adding a little bit more definition to that upper flower in front of the tree, and now I'm starting to develop this flower and turning it a different way. And the way I'm going to do that is by adding some darker values to the bottom, okay? I'm making it to where it's going to be kind of turning a little bit more towards the sun. So we're seeing the underside of the flower. And I gave it a little bit of that blue and a little green on the lighter value. And then I'm going to do the same concept that I did before, where on the top of the flower, I'm just kind of glazing. This is a repeat of what I did before. I'm putting some of that orangey color, even add a little bit more of that rich color there. And then I'm gradually going to add the colors that you see in the sky. And finally, that's one of the sky colors there. And then finally, the lighter colors. I'm getting a pastel that is one of the lighter colors in the sky, and it's a little bit more yellowy orange. And I'm just making little marks. I'm trying not to make them too equally spaced out, which I kind of did there. So I kind of fixed that when I get to some of the lightest values. And I'm softening the edges a bit too with, here's the one that's even lighter. I'm using my right hand here, and even though I'm pretty ambidextrous, I still find that when you switch hands, you often make marks that are different, and it varies up your painting, so you don't have all of your marks looking exactly the same. And this is getting close to the final parts of this painting. I'm looking for areas where I can add, remember how I mentioned some darker values to bring interest for the eye, just to have some interesting places to go. So I loved that little turquoisey green. And I'm also going to be adding, again, some of the dark purpley colors too soon. I decided to add a little bit of those little filaments to the bottom of that flower that's reaching up to give it a little bit more shape and dimension, and I wanted to give a little bit more depth around it too. And this is a stage for me where it gets really fun, but it's also a stage where you have to be careful. And I'm raising my hand talking to myself, because you can start to have so much fun and kind of get so into it that you're feeling the energy and everything, and you're maybe not looking at your reference image as much as you were before. And so you got to be careful, and you got to make sure that you can have some of that freedom and fun, but also remember to walk away. Now, I did like adding some of that little, almost like a little lacy feel of some of that blue on the top of that upper flower, pulled some of that still down into the lower flowers, cooling them off even more. And you can see I'm dancing around this painting with my hand, using both right and left hands. And I loved that flower that was reaching up there into the tree line. To me, it was, I would say, a focal interest indeed, for sure. I need to add a few flowers in the distance for interest, and I'm using that little pale kind of green color. There's a tendency to think in your brain, you're saying these flowers are white or whatever color you use to represent kind of the light values. There's a tendency to want to just take that same color all throughout the painting. But the flowers in the distance, they're just an afterthought, kind of, or I always say they're like the supporting characters. So you don't want to give them so much attention. You can occasionally take one or two and really brighten them up just to pull the eye a little bit more into further into the painting. But I feel like you just want to keep those very subtle. You can see I'm adding a little bit more of the little dark elements or things. I don't even know what they are, but just little things that bring interest. And I am bringing a little bit more of that little salmony color in a few places. And I do need to get some more of these grass shapes. I mean, I've got a little bit of motion going on here, but in the reference image, there's some really pretty tall, lighter value grasses. So I brought some of those up. And now I'm going to zoom in where you can see where I'm finally bringing some lighter values to some of these flowers. Again, I want to keep these soft and impressionistic and not overdo the detail. There you can see where I do have more detail on that larger flower, the one I erased. And now is where I'm going to add some of the darker elements that I've mentioned before. I got one of the dark purples that I had used originally, and a few, I think maybe another dark or so. And the reason I did that is I wanted it to feel connected. You see how the tree is dark in the distance? And I felt like that just balanced it out. Now here I'm making little dark elements of things, and then I decided let's make them like these little kind of long flowers with some segments to them. And you know, you just get creative with this. You guys know I'm not real good at my flower varieties, but I'm sometimes can remember flower shapes. I don't know what to call them. So you can see, didn't that add just another nice little element of dimension to this? And I'm using this Prismacolor New Pastel just to delicately get some of the stems of the flowers and some of the grasses, and I'm still bringing in a little bit of this warmth. Remember, this image is about a glow in the sun, and while I've punched up the color in mine more than the original reference image, I want to still capture that sense of light. I really hope those who have subscribed to me here on my YouTube channel and those who may have just stumbled across this video have enjoyed this release of some of my Patreon only content, and that it's given you a little teaser and a little taste of what's available. And you know, I will still keep sharing more content, free content here on the YouTube channel always, as long as I'm still painting. As always, my beautifully artistic friends, God bless and happy painting.